And welcome everybody to Every Man Has a Story. I have a special guest today. His name is Tyler, and he is in Estonia, which is a beautiful country. I actually visited one day many
Mhm.
years ago. And Tyler and I have been trying to connect now for about 2 weeks. And because of the time difference, and I'm in the Philippines, he's in Estonia. I'm sure he's a busy man. We kept missing each other. And finally tonight, the stars aligned, and here we are. And I've got Tyler with me. So thank you so much for joining me, Tyler. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and being on the show. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your life? And are you from Estonia, or are you just living there?
Okay, good question. So I've been living in Estonia now for almost 2 years. I came here with the intention to launch a business with my brother. It was like a
Okay.
startup in technology, and I we had gotten launched, and everything was good. We had launched two Kickstarter campaigns, and those unfortunately, both those campaigns had issues, and we were unable um, to eventually launch products through Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Our startup was still registered with Startup Estonia because how it worked, like 5 to 10 years ago, Estonia began a program that was called Startup Estonia. And what they were doing was try and bring people, both Estonian and foreign people, to come and launch businesses, mostly in technology related areas in the country. And that's basically what brought me here. And I've been here since. I had made a couple trips before because my brother actually had came here prior, like 3.5 years ago, and then eventually I joined him in Estonia, and
And
I went.
and so
Um,
where are you originally from?
I came from the U.S., Chicago, and then also Minnesota, like
Oh,
northern Minnesota. Yep.
okay.
hmm
Well, yeah, big
and
change being in Estonia.
yes, yes, and I've also lived in South America, in Chile and Argentina. I lived down there for about 2 years when I was in university.
Wow. And
Yep.
so what did you study in university?
I studied, it was a combination of like international business, computer science, and Spanish.
Interesting. And so tell me
Yes.
a little more about your company, your startup. I'm really interested about that.
Okay, so this startup now is disbanded technically. But
Hmm.
the startup was a smartwatch brand. We were kind of um it was not like the smartwatch like Fitbit. It was more of like a hybrid smartwatch model,
Hmm.
and we were, yeah, like wearable technology, and that was kind of the gist of it. Is there like something specific to about it, or
Hmm.
um
Did you already have a prototype?
okay, yes. We were actually, so we had CAD design, we had designed the watch, we had software, we like created the CAD design, and we were actually working with a manufacturer based in China.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, we had prototype models that we had created, so we had like an almost the final watch designed and produced, and also the software behind it and the app, because obviously with smartwatch technology you have the app, and all the software has to synchronize just well, because if it
Hmm.
does, it's basically useless. Within smartwatch design, the software and technology is just as important as the hardware.
Hmm.
And also note too that the that technology was more when we had started like 4 years ago. It was, I think, a little more popular. I mean, there is still a lot of smartwatch like enthusiasts, but I think it's died down a bit, the
Hmm.
interest and stuff.
And so it's a shame, like you and your brother put all this work into designing technology and software and everything. And so is it just gone now? You'll never be used, or can you build
Um,
on it and do something else, or what's your plans for all the work that you put into it?
Okay, so like we still have like our campaign, you can still find it
Hmm.
from Kickstarter. Our two campaigns that were shut down. Okay, so in terms of the brand itself, basically we had to fold it. Like there wasn't really a whole lot that could be done because we didn't have any profits to show. While
Hmm.
we had um through Kickstarter, the first campaign had before we were shut down like 1 month into the campaign. It was 2 month, 60-day campaign. And it's important to know with Kickstarter, 2, 3 years ago, they were becoming extremely strict about campaigns and if they felt there was anything off, because there were a lot of scammers and
Yeah.
people that were launching campaigns and they weren't maybe they were like they were giving the back or something, but it wasn't quite what they had promised. So Kickstarter, about 3 or 4 years ago, had begun a process of being very strict um, of these campaigns, and due to some discrepancies, mostly they shut our campaign down. Um, it was just like unfortunate, and most of it was actually based on like a misunderstanding. We
Mm.
had the CAD or CAD designs and everything to show them, but it was they just felt like there was something missing, and also like the just to get the campaigns going in the first place, it was pretty hard at that time. So just to get past that and then be live, we didn't anticipate these problems. And then when we launched the second time, we were like absolutely certain that everything was going to be fine, but then we were shut down again. We had raised it was just over $50,000 because our goals like the first time I think we had like a $20,000 goal and we were at 75,000 after
Wow.
4 weeks. Yeah, we had anticipated raising around 300 to 400,000 for the first campaign. In the second campaign, we were at 50,000, and then we were shut down. Like in the first week, we were at 50,000. So that one would have probably raised at least $500,000.
Were you able to get any
So
of that money? Were you able to draw any of that money out, or is that money gone?
no, none of it. We weren't able to get any of
Mm.
it because, and that's how Kickstarter is. Just for some clarification, Kickstarter, how their pledging works, pledger can back out at any point. They're not obliged until the campaign is finished.
Okay.
And even after a campaign can be completed, they can still, for any reason, shut down the campaign and refuse funds. There's
Hmm.
yeah, it's just part of the platform, and there was no way at that time we did not have sufficient funds to, because for us to go through the manufacturing process in China, we would have needed like at least $200,000 to $300,000 to get going, and so we
Oh.
just simply because see like our first round um or this first line of smartwatches, we didn't anticipate making much profit or much revenue. Yeah,
Yeah.
net profit, I should say. The revenues would have been, I guess, kind of like whatever was pledged or Kickstarter, but because if you know anything about like whether it's e-commerce or any like product lines, often when you're in your early phases, you're not going to make a lot of like actual net profit. You may make a lot of revenue, but your net profit may only be like 5 or 10%.
Right.
And that you're trying to gain an audience and grow the brand. So
So where are you now? Like, what is like? Why are you still in Estonia? Why haven't you gone home,
um
or what's the plan
well,
now?
I'm still yes. So I'm still here. I got going with something. Basically, I got going with something else. I didn't need to leave at that point. I was still able to remain here. I because I had the right documents. But
Hmm.
I just ended up staying here because it was mostly for convenience, and I could live cheaper, and it was just a little more low key here. So I segued. into what was kind of my background, which is within finance and accounting.
Oh,
And so I switched over from, I also do, as you know, have a YouTube channel. But I switched over to
well, while you mentioned that, what's the name of your YouTube channel? Let's
it's called
give it a shout out.
Viking Traveler.
Viking
Yes.
Traveler. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I believe some of my audience
I
watches
subscribe to
you.
that. Yeah, I
Okay,
subscribe to
thanks.
that. Yeah. I
Okay,
remember
yeah.
reading. You always write really interesting comments. I remember
Mhm.
that.
Yes, yeah.
So, once again, why Estonia? Of all the countries in the world, why Estonia? And what language do they speak there? Do they speak Russian or what do they speak? I don't remember.
Yes. Okay. So, I'll answer the second thing or the language. They speak it's Estonian and Russian.
Hmm.
Um, okay. So to clarify some stuff. Okay. So Estonia obviously used to be part of the Soviet Union, of course.
Right.
Estonia is the only where like Tallinn, the capital, is the only
That's
like
where I was. Tallinn. I remember the name now. I was there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Tallinn's only like 80 miles from the Russian border. I'm very, very close to Russia.
Mhm.
It's so close, in fact, that there's actually many parallels. How the people look, for example, very similar to people in St. Petersburg, Russia.
Yeah.
Meaning even okay, so the language, for example, it's Estonian and Russian. Most people like 30 years ago could speak both languages because during the Soviet Union, they were mandated to like speak Russian, even the like Estonians. Uh, I would say now it's like half and half, basically. Um,
Mm.
many, so you have one group of people that grow up speaking Estonian, primarily another group grow up speaking Russian, but many of the peoples that speak Russian growing up, or most of them, can also speak Estonian.
Mm.
Um, because they're basically forced to in school. And then at least 80 to 90% of young people here can also speak some English, I would
Mm.
say.
And so, do you
Um,
get by with English, or do you speak Russian or Estonian, or?
English is perfect, honestly. If I do have the choice, so I would speak Russian because I myself do. I've studied Russian on and off for about 4 or 5 years. I can understand quite a bit of Russian. Speaking it not as much, but I can get by if I'm kind of speaking it a bit. I have been
Mhm.
practicing. It's a little easier.
Mm. So
But
you speak English, you speak
mhm.
Russian, and you speak Spanish. Any other
Yes.
languages?
I know
I
some
apologize for the
Latin.
dog, by the way. I mean,
Oh,
he'll
that's
be
fine.
quiet in a minute.
I like some Latin, and I also do understand quite a bit of Portuguese and Italian from
Wow,
Spanish because I
wow.
speak Spanish so proficiently, even though it's a second language. Like I was so immersed with Spanish that due to that the sounds and the structure of Italian and Portuguese is quite similar to Spanish.
Hmm.
Because obviously they're all part of the Latin language group, the
Hmm.
Romantic language groups.
Right.
Yes.
And so, what are you working on now, and how long do you plan on staying in Estonia?
Okay, very good question. Right now, I am I'm working. So I have courses that I had started creating. I of course have my YouTube channel.
Hmm.
That may be a little more hobby, but the main thing I do for work wise is I do both. I day trade and I swing trade in the stock market, the
Oh.
financial markets, just normal stocks. And then I also have courses in tax preparation and on how to day trade, swing trade stocks. And also I have a few courses on like cryptocurrencies because I have researched that some, but like my main specialty is within taxes and in like the stock market.
Hmm.
And I have courses through the platform Udemy.
Yeah.
There's like Udemy, Coursera, these major platforms, low cost courses. I have courses I launched through Udemy, and that's slowly growing.
Oh, so you got people paying to take the courses that are yours online.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
that's great. That's a good business.
Yes.
I've heard about that. So
Yes.
the stock. Let's talk about the stock market for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I dabble in the stock market and I dabble in cryptocurrency as well.
Mm-hmm.
Many people are predicting. For example, Harry Dent. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a friend of mine, and he's predicting like by June there's going to be a huge tsunami of economic catastrophe that's going to hit America due to the pandemic and some other things, and inflation is going to go really high. The stock market's going to drop by 75%. What do you think about this going to happen? Do you have any thoughts or predictions about what you think is going to happen in the market? Or
regarding that, not as much. Not from a technical side. From a non-technical perspective, I think there may be a drop off, but I don't see it being like, I think it's kind of overhyped, honestly. There was actually a large decrease in the markets even from February until April.
Yeah.
Some sectors took more of a hit. The pharmaceutical sector, that took a pretty big hit. There's actually there's an index. There's different indexes for different sectors. There's an index for biopharmaceutical companies called XBI index. And if you look at the XBI index, it kind of peaked in middle of February, and then it sharply fell for the 2 months more or less, and then it started to kind of rebound a week to 2 weeks ago. So you could basically go through almost any pharma stock in the micro cap to large cap sector. Because and just for clarity, pharma is like probably my specialty. But you could look at almost any stock. 90% of them dropped quite significantly from like middle of February to April, and there was many that dropped half or even 2/3 of their value from that point. Regarding like a large an overall drop off, I don't. I mean, I guess it could happen. I don't see it like maybe being so dramatic. It's it's difficult to say. Another factor too, I think, is the fact that, and one other thing too, with going back to the biopharma stocks, is that typically there's like a decline from February until April each year. That's like a constant pattern. We've seen that now for the past 10 to 20 years in the market. So for that reason, for example, if you're like into swing trading, usually I would tell someone to try, if you don't want to hold the stocks long term as investments, to sell out at like somewhere in February, and then just wait until the 2 month period happens again to repurchase.
Well, with the pharmaceuticals, now I would think as a layman that because of the pandemic, all the companies that were making vaccines would be raking in the money. I mean, like Johnson and Johnson and Moderna and all these companies, did their stock go down also?
Yes, their stocks, almost all of them took a hit,
Wow.
and even with, yes, and I think a lot of the vaccine prices or the vaccine impact on the pharma stocks had most of its impact last year and maybe early this year. I think a lot of that has already came into place because,
I
in the
see.
stock,
Yeah.
yes, in the stock market, the price can be baked into the stock price. So you can see, like, it's kind of like that quote of buy the rumor, sell the news. You see that more and more now, especially within micro cap stocks. Many of the pharma stocks, at least 70% of them, fall within the small to mid cap stock range. And what you see is that a lot of it's baked into the price as it and it slowly builds up, and then eventually, even if like if it's a good earnings report or something, the stock can then drop like 20% because the price actually has already been baked in. And I think a lot of the there were a lot of COVID
Speculation.
Yeah, there's like a lot of these opportunities last year, probably hundreds, in my different micro cap stocks had these events, some kind of vaccine related news, and you would often see a big move. And then, but I think a lot of that wave has already passed at this point.
Now, what about cryptocurrencies? For example, you know, there's people out there saying, "Oh, Bitcoin's going to go to $500,000, $1 million," and that's the future, or that it's going to be a cashless society. I personally bought Ripple XRP, and I got it at like 20 cents a share, or 20 cents a coin.
Good. Excellent.
And it's doing. Everybody told me not to buy it. They said, you know, don't buy that. It's a dead coin. Everything. They're gonna lose everything. And it seems it even went up today, and it's like going up and up and up. Like, what do you feel about XRP and Ripple? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I have XRP myself. I actually believe I'm not any financial expert, but okay, so I think Bitcoin and Ethereum, unless there's like more countries that have really strong regulation, will have a general upward trajectory. It may have dips like it often does, but I think we'll just continue upward. XRP actually, and I, like yourself, had bought around this exact same price range last year. It was actually, I think I bought it at 0.18, and I think that's actually could be like have the next like real big move, or similar to Ethereum and Bitcoin a few years ago. I think I would not be surprised if that goes from where it's at now to say $100 within a year, 2 years.
Wow. Yes. I got a question for you. The price of XRP Ripple keeps fluctuating, but trading has been suspended. Like, I bought mine through Coinbase. I could sell it if I want to, but I can't buy any more, which I would like to. How does the price fluctuate if nobody's able to buy it?
Well, I think in on other exchanges in other countries, people can.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I think yeah, it's suspended for certain countries and certain exchanges.
Yeah, because I bought Bitcoin, I bought Ethereum, Litecoin, and then Ripple. That's all. That's all I've got when it comes to crypto. And of course, I got, you know, microscopic amounts of Bitcoin. I mean, I bought it on Robinhood, so I'm not like no big investor. But I'll tell you a story. I was doing talk radio back in America, back about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I can't remember exactly when it was, but there was a guy named Cliff High who was talking about this brand new thing called Bitcoin. And he said, "Oh, it may be a scam, it may not be a scam." And I believe the price was like $12 a coin. And you had to go to some website to buy it. You know, he said, "Yeah." I said, I bought a couple $100 worth. I probably got ripped off. You know, and that's when I first heard about it. I had the opportunity. I actually knew about it, and I didn't do it. So I'm hoping someday there's a time machine and I could go back in time and buy some Bitcoin.
You could have bought like a few $100s and you would have been sad.
Someone said that if you put $1 in like 2006, you would have like $15 million today or something like that. It's crazy how much the profit would be. But, it was a lot.
Yeah, it was like those first people. I do know of people personally that are I would call them acquaintances that did have become like multimillionaires through crypto. Actually, like here in Estonia, this country where I am, there were many people that got into cryptos early, and in Finland, it was very popular in Scandinavia, the crypto market. And my brother had a friend, actually, he on like on paper he eventually reached like 9-figure on that wealth. Because he was dumping like tens of thousands, like anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000. He didn't say, but he got in when it was like, as you were saying, it was so low. And yes.
I was reading about Ripple, you know, a little on the company's website about what they do and everything, and it sounds to me like a really good product, you know, a really good coin, you know. And it seems like the SEC hasn't really put out a definitive definition of what a cryptocurrency is, as opposed to a what do they call it? There's the word I'm looking for. What's the SEC saying that XRP is? It's a security, and
Yeah.
so that whether it's a security, whether it's a cryptocurrency, like it's very murky as far as what that is. So I'm thinking they got a good chance of winning this.
Yeah, I think they do. And like I think with like all the kind of like financial services and money transfers and all the business practicality of XRP, that's where I kind of see it becoming like the next Bitcoin. I think where you could see like a really big move from $1 or $2 to 100 to maybe 1,000. It's
Wow.
Yeah. Some of it too, as you were saying, will depend on some of the political stuff. If there's problems, like if countries restricted or something, then that would cause problems. But
and,
it's
and so you're planning on staying in Estonia for the foreseeable future? I guess you have like a special visa to be there, or
well, I'll be here until probably for actually a month or two longer, and then I'll be headed to Serbia.
I
Yeah.
have a lot of friends from Serbia. I've went on cruise
Okay.
ships. Many people from Serbia. Some of my best friends.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I was actually, because I lived also in Russia for 6 months in St. Petersburg, like 2 years ago, I had a girlfriend there, and I was actually going to, at the time I was planning on getting married, and living like extended time in Russia. That unfortunately didn't work out, so I had to leave as quickly as I could, because how Russian visas work, tourist visas, is you get like you'd get 6 month time to be there.
Sorry, somebody's at the door. Yeah, go ahead. So about the visas.
Yeah, you'd get 6 month periods to be there over 3 years. That's how the Russian visa works. And I was getting near the 6 month mark, and unfortunately, the relationship I had with my girlfriend at the time, she was Russian. It ended. She ended the relationship, so I then had to leave, and I came here to Estonia. So what my plan was to actually go back to Russia this year to live, but the Russian border for U.S. citizens and for many other people is still you can't get in. So Serbia on many levels kind of fit all the things I was looking for. As like it seemed like a great country. Have you traveled to Serbia before?
I have not. Well, I've been to Dubrovnik. I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Croatia.
I can't remember if that was. I can't. Yeah, that was in Croatia. I know. But I've been there. I was there when it was Yugoslavia, the first time.
Oh wow, Yugoslavia.
Yeah, back in the 1980s. Because I went to Dubrovnik, I went to Split, and a few other cities I don't remember. But I just fell in love with the place. It was so beautiful, and Dubrovnik was wonderful. And then on cruise ships, we had many crew members from both Serbia and Croatia. And everybody gets along great. There's no problems. There's no anything, and it's really interesting. But I had a girlfriend from Serbia, and she was trying to, for quite a while. And she was trying to explain to me one time about the war, what really happened. And it's so confusing. I mean, it's not a simple story.
No, it's not. Very complicated matter. Did you meet this woman when you were on a cruise ship or in?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the spa manager, and I was the art director.
Okay.
So yeah, we worked together. Yeah.
Interesting. Yes, and so I'm curious, when you went to Croatia, Mark, how was it at that? Because that was still like Yugoslavia.
Yeah, it was still Yugoslavia. That was the first time. I've been back since then, but it was. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your question.
So did you need visas, or was there a lot of restrictions with getting? Okay.
Nothing. It's like the way it worked back then when I first started traveling. I went to Russia too on the same trip, St. Petersburg. We would get off the ship, and we would give our passport to a guard, at the gangway, and they would give us a card, and the card was like that you were in the country legally. And then when you came back to the ship, you gave them the card, they gave you back your passport. It was really easy,
Oh,
no big deal. But you just have what's called a Siemens book and a
okay.
Siemens card, and the cruise line would set this all up for you. But basically, with the Siemens book or Siemens card, you could travel pretty much anywhere in the world. It was like
Oh,
a visa for everywhere. And I'm not sure if
that's
they
nice.
have that anymore today or not, but that's what
Mhm.
we used to have, a Siemens book, and
Wow, very
it was really good.
nice.
But yeah, I remember just going to Dubrovnik, and they've got that beautiful wall all the way around the city, and it's so
Hmm.
lovely at night. And
Hmm.
I went to a restaurant with some friends. We had like a couple bottles of wine, really nice meal, and it was
Hmm.
like $15 for 4 people.
Wow. Oh,
And then
wow.
I remember there we went swimming there in like a bay area, and there's like these little tidal pool areas. They'd put swimming pool ladders and cement
Hmm.
in these little areas so you could easily get into the sea and go swimming and come back. And it's just it was just one of those places that when I was first there, I said, "This I could live here." It's just such a beautiful place, and the people were so
Oh.
nice. And they had the horse show there. I remember they had
Hmm.
these and did these beautiful horses, stallions, white stallions, and it's like when the war happened, I was just stunned. I was just
Hmm.
stunned that this country that seemed so nice, just split in half, and it was neighbor against neighbor. It was really
Hmm.
shocking.
Okay. Yes, and I imagine when you went there, the first time it was when it was Yugoslavia, all these countries were all kind of connected.
Yeah,
So yeah, they didn't kind of see themselves as separated or anything like that.
no, and
And also too, because you were on the cruise line, it was pretty common at that time for cruises to kind of go through most of those countries.
oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
Dubrovnik was very popular on cruises, very popular in Eastern Europe on those
okay,
cruises. Yeah.
wow. And so and also when you went there, did they um because at that time like before the like all the like problems broke out and stuff, were most of the people kind of like would you say they were because in the former Soviet, or yeah, in the Soviet Union at that time, obviously many people wanted to leave, wanted to go to Western, anywhere like in whether it was Europe or US, Australia. Did many people want to leave at that time, or were they all right there?
Um, as far as I know, they didn't. They seemed
Okay,
happy. I mean, I didn't talk. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Of course, with the language barrier, I didn't like to have conversations with people. But
Hmm.
the same thing. I remember when I first went to Russia again back in the same time period in the
Hmm.
80s.
Yes.
Back when we were being told that Russia was our biggest enemy, and
Hmm.
that the Russians were going to, someday, blow us all up with nuclear weapons. And I
Hmm.
went everywhere I went in Russia, people were friendly. I remember the first time I went off the ship.
Hmm.
Um, I think it was in St. Petersburg. We were in an industrial port, with the big cargo ships and freighters.
Okay.
And it's
Yes.
at nighttime. It's like 7, 8 o'clock at night. It's dark.
Hmm.
Kind of a dingy harbor. A lot of like sailors from the hardcore guys that work on these ships. And there was a bar, and I was
Hmm.
with 3 other Americans. We said, "Well, let's go to this bar." And this is a Russian sailors tough guy bar, right?
Hmm.
And so we walk in there. Obviously, we're Americans. Obviously, we're foreigners. And they all looked at us when we came in the door, and they could not have been nicer to us. They were
Oh
buying
wow.
us shots of vodka. They were, we were playing pool with them. They were just
Okay.
so nice. I mean, just like overly nice. These big tough
Hmm.
sailors, just
Yes.
thrilled to meet us.
Oh
And
yeah.
some of them gave us, I remember, little pins they had from their village or their city, and they gave us these little
Nice.
pins and we put them on, and it was just really nice. And then I went to the Russian circus, and I
Yeah.
remember sitting there, and this little old lady next to me, like they had the intermission, other people were like buying snacks and stuff, and she takes out a little apple and starts peeling the apple and eating the apple. And I go, these people
Okay.
are nice people. This is not our enemy, And
Yeah.
everywhere I went, the whole time I was in Russia, I never had any problem, and
Oh,
nobody treated me poorly. Nobody, gave me an attitude or anything like. It was just the opposite. They couldn't have been.
okay.
They couldn't have been nicer to me. And also
Yeah.
the Russians. I worked with Russians on cruise ships too,
Hmm.
and they were wonderful people.
Oh yeah. I imagine like they're, yeah, like especially in service sector, I think they do very well in like service sector areas. They're
Yeah.
very reliable and consistent. And when you went to Russia, was that like Soviet Union, or had that period already?
Both. I've been
Okay,
before and after. Last time I was there was
interesting.
only like 5 years ago.
Okay, so
Yeah.
when you went, when it was still the Soviet Union, was it more, was there like a lot of kind of military presence, like at, was there like checkpoints and a lot of like military slash police officers on the street and stuff?
I don't remember that. But we
Okay,
were only in St. Petersburg. And if
okay,
people that haven't been to St. Petersburg,
hmm
St. Petersburg is almost like an island, and
hmm
they shut down the bridges at night after a certain time. So if you're not out of the city by, I can't remember when it is, like 11, 12 o'clock, there's a certain time they lift
yep,
the bridges and you can't get out. You're stuck there.
yeah,
And a
yeah,
lot
on
of
those
time,
islands.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah. So many crew members, got stuck there because they didn't know about the bridges being raised. But yeah, I
oh
mean,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
people were helpful. If you had to deal with a soldier or police officer, they were friendly and smiling at you. There
yes,
was absolutely zero being uncomfortable or hostility or anything. It was just the opposite, which
hmm
was, I realized that time that my government had not told me the truth about what these people were like. Maybe the government was doing certain things, but the people are good people. And
oh yeah, yeah,
also,
they come.
a lot of the people I
hmm
work with on cruise ships, I've done this on many ships from Russia, from Serbia, and Croatia, are highly educated. You meet
Oh
people
yeah,
like, they've got master's degrees, even though they're a waiter, and they're
yes,
doing it because the money's so good compared to
yeah.
what they would make in their own country.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I can't, yeah, that's absolutely true. And like also too, when you were, was it like in the springtime or summer when you were there?
It was always in the
Well,
summer. Yeah.
okay, yes, and it's very like weather is very nice, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
And yeah, I'm like where I am in Estonia, basically I'm on the same latitude as St. Petersburg, same latitude as like Finland, Sweden, Norway. And I think in this part of the world it's actually sunnier in the springtime
Mm,
in summer than it is, say, in many states in the US. And
yeah.
like what we see here is we'll have like 5 or 7 straight sunny days, and then we will have maybe some overcast days for 2 or 3 days, and then it's sunny again. And obviously the days are very long.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of like darkness right now.
So like in St. Petersburg, I remember for the first time going to the Hermitage,
hmm
and people just don't realize how amazing that museum is. Someone told me that if you stop to look at every work of art for
hmm
like 2 minutes, it'd take you 12 years to go through the Hermitage. There's so much art there. Like you could go and see the very first Cubist painting that Picasso did right next to
hmm
the very first Cubist painting that Braque did. And they
hmm
developed Cubism together. A lot of people don't know that. And there's the
hmm
two paintings of the same still life. They painted the same still life and they're on the wall side by side. And,
Absolutely.
and so many famous paintings, by Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, they got it all there. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like if you go to the Louvre in
hmm
Paris, they've got the Mona Lisa that's behind like a 3 foot piece of glass, and you can barely even see it. But in the Hermitage, there'll be a little lady sitting on a stool, little Russian lady, half
hmm
awake, and that's the only thing guarding a multi-million-dollar priceless painting. And you can
hmm
walk right up to them and look at the brush strokes. You
Yes.
could get really close to the art there, which is something you don't find in museums in other countries. I mean,
No,
that's one
that's
thing I
true.
loved about the Hermitage.
Yeah, and that's right up your alley from
Yeah.
with your background. And
Mm,
also to the I think um like St. Petersburg, of course, had the lot of other European groups that had settled there.
hmm
Um, there was actually back in the late 1800s, it was like 10 to 15% German population,
Oh, I didn't
and
know that.
yeah,
Huh.
and that's actually to this day, that's where a lot of the Germanic influences came from in St. Petersburg. Was from
Huh.
obviously they even had obviously leaders like some back in the 17 to 1800s that were from that they weren't actually from Russia, and those so the Germanic influences and I think a lot of French influence
hmm
I think had kind of tied in with the artistic movement
hmm
and also just the overall look and beauty of the city.
hmm Well,
And
we haven't talked about this yet. How has COVID affected Estonia? Has it been bad? Like I talked to people with my tutoring, like Brazil, for example, and it's been devastating to Brazil, and many other, like Mexico, suffered badly. How is Estonia done?
Like on an economic or like health level, or both?
Both.
Okay. Okay, so health wise, it's not been that bad. Very few fatalities.
Hmm.
There's been, I mean, it been a relatively decent number of people who've gotten it, but fatalities are low. One of the problems in Estonia, though, was the fact that they had there's not a lot of medical people in the medical profession, nurses, doctors. They don't have a lot of, even for the size of the country, that a lot of people in that area. They don't have a lot of like clinics either. So whether people had that or they had other problems, they were becoming too filled, the clinics and hospitals. So that wasn't as much of a problem last year. This year it was. I think now it's not. It's gone down some in the past month or two. On an economic level, like in many countries, tremendous impact on the country. It's yeah. I mean, like a lot of like right now they've had, or we did have lockdowns here for the past like 6 weeks, and that meant that like most businesses would have to be shut down unless they were non-essential. I will say though, in Estonia, it's a bit different than like both in European Union countries and worldwide. They don't have the kind of like sometimes they have restrictions on paper, but it doesn't necessarily mean like for example, what they call lockdown here. I mean, you could walk around at 2 in the morning, you wouldn't have any problems. It's the kind of place where, and likewise, like even in many businesses, they'll say to wear a face mask or covering, but many people would still walk in not wear one, and they will service the person. Or and so in that sense, they don't. It's people don't really get as concerned, I guess, about what the other person is doing.
Well, you know, you said that Salt, the restaurant we were discussing earlier that I ate at when I was in Estonia. I remember one thing about that restaurant. On the menu, it had a little bio, and that restaurant had been open for 700 years plus.
Well, seven. Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
700 years, and it's such a shame that after 700 years, you know, they went out of business because of this pandemic. You
I
know,
believe so. I'll have to do some more research and
Mm,
verify that.
yeah. What
Um,
about vaccines? Do they do any vaccines there?
um, yeah, but a lot of Estonians, like I said, are very much wired like Russians. A lot of Estonians are very anti-vaccine.
Oh, okay.
So they, I mean, I think there are certain sectors required to take it.
Mhm.
Many people though won't take the vaccine. Basically, they
Mm.
don't. They're just against it, and
How
yeah.
about
So
you? What are you gonna do?
I don't. I haven't had any kind of health problems, honestly. The
Mm,
the like this actually, the past winter was the first time I didn't even get any kind of illness, cold or anything,
mm,
in 10 years. I mean, I don't, unless I was required, I wouldn't take it.
mm,
Just if I was going to a country and I was required, I would. But like Serbia, I don't believe they have requirements. So yeah.
mm.
What about
So,
yourself?
I'm open to it. I haven't seen
Okay.
my daughters in almost 2 years, and they're in London. And
Hmm.
usually, what we do is we meet somewhere in America. Here in the
Hmm.
Philippines, where I'm at, they're not vaccinating anybody but frontliners, like police officers, doctors, people like that. And so
Hmm.
it could be 6 months to a year before they even get around to old guys like me, from other countries. So if I had the opportunity to get vaccinated, I would get it. I don't even care if it
Okay.
comes from China. Excuse me,
Hmm.
from China,
Yeah.
because when I worked on ships, I mean, I had no choice. They would call
Hmm.
me up some days, hey, Mark, come down to the hospital. I get a flu shot, whatever. I've had shingles vaccine, pneumonia vaccine, smallpox. I mean, you name it, all these vaccines.
Hmm.
I've never had a problem with any of them. So, and
Okay.
so I don't buy into the conspiracy theories like they're trying to control my brain with 5G or whatever. Let them. If they're that interested, put that kind of technology. Go, have at it. I don't care.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see
No,
it. I'm not worried about it.
yeah, the family members I have taken, I haven't had any issues. It's in Philippines. First, like with the COVID, has it affected like physically a lot of people?
No.
Or
Well, on my island, there's 4 million people here, and me and 3 or 4 of my friends that I know, we were pretty sure we had COVID over a
Mhm,
year ago, before they were even talking about it, before it even had a name. There's a
mhm,
lot of Chinese come here, and we were like, I was sweating through my sheets at night, coughing with nothing coming up. My eyes were all red like conjunctivitis, and I was sick for like 7 weeks, and nothing worked on it. My friend had the same symptom. His girlfriend was really, really sick for a long time, and we just toughed it out. I was taking apple cider vinegar and honey, and I just toughed it out, and eventually, I got better.
mhm.
Um, but now looking back, we're pretty sure that we had COVID, but we haven't had a test to find out for sure. But
Okay,
in the Philippines, your average person's only 25 years old. And
okay,
a lot of people are living in poverty, with chickens and dogs and stuff. So from being a little child, they have a really strong immune system because they're exposed to all kinds of things from the time they're little. And
mhm,
so I think that probably on this island, it might have swept through here over a year ago and nobody noticed except for
mhm.
people like me. But the hospitals here, I actually try to get interviews with the directors of several of the hospitals here, and they won't talk to me. But
They
I do
won't.
know that they won't.
Oh
But I
wow.
do know that they don't have any cases hardly at all. They get people test positive. They isolate them for a couple of weeks. When they test negative, they let them go. And so 4 million people, there's been like 30 deaths, I think, on the island, very few.
Well,
And a lot of those were foreigners. They were not no locals.
because okay, the island that you're on, is that considered classified as a small island of
Well,
Philippines?
no, it's one of the larger islands. Negros Oriental is so big, or it's Negros Oriental, Negros Occidental. It's almost like Haiti and Dominican Republic. It's an island that's split in half. It's like
Okay.
got two different, halves to it.
Hmm.
4 million people living here, and
Hmm.
COVID has not been a problem. They're very cautious. They've had lockdowns. They've had roadblocks. People
Hmm.
still wear the mask and everything, but they're very lax about it. Like I was in McDonald's today.
Yeah.
You wear a mask when you come in. They take your temperature, then take your mask off, and
Okay.
everybody's just like normal. You know, and
Okay.
so they really eased up a lot. But our Sunday market, where everybody
Hmm.
goes to do their shopping on Sunday with fruits and vegetables, that's been shut down for 3 weeks now because they had a little
Okay.
spike in cases. So
Okay.
it's like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, and
Yeah.
so I
It's
don't know
very
what's going to happen here.
interesting. Yeah, it's like there's so many expats that live in Philippines,
Oh yeah,
much more
especially
so
here.
than yeah, I've seen many like multiple YouTube channels. I've seen your
Yeah,
friend Paul. I've seen Jason.
yeah.
Um, there's like a guy. He goes by Sunshine Shoulders. I don't know
I
if
don't
you
know him. No, I don't know that
okay.
one.
Like it's like what he has said about like with the whole virus situation is really different than what you're saying. It's
What?
interesting, kind of getting
Well, it depends on where he is. If he's in Manila, it's bad there, and Cebu's had a problem
um
too.
no, I think he's on one of the islands. It seems like I don't know which island it is.
There's seven
Um,
thousand islands, so it's hard to tell.
yeah, yeah, I don't. But yeah, and that is also true. I think
So what is
from
he
what
saying? What is he saying that's different?
I mean, he was really saying it like kind of it was dire the situation,
Hmm.
and he was kind of saying how the Filipinos weren't taking proper precautions with like in I guess there would be too many of them in rooms and stuff or
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
uh,
I see that here. Yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
see that here. And
yeah, but
they've never done any testing at all. Like when this first happened, there were all these countries like South Korea, America. They were testing everybody. They didn't do
Mhm.
that here. The only people they tested is people coming or leaving the island. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, and one that's one of the other things, I guess, the fact that it's an island kind of helps
Yeah, it
self-contain.
does. It does.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I know there's actually another guy, he's big, he goes by Tim K. I've seen he's probably one of the bigger ones actually. And I know on some of those islands they've been able to prevent like problems because it's isolated.
Yeah.
It was actually one of the same, I think the same mentality in some of the European Union countries. They
Yes.
basically, after so long, because people weren't coming in, if it was an issue, it kind of would gradually die down because there wasn't as people coming from all over the place.
Well, I have a friend of mine that was my neighbor, and he was here when the virus broke out. He was here for the first 4 or 5 months, and he went back to Sweden. And in
Okay.
Sweden, I since talked to him on Skype, and he said, yeah, everybody's walking around normal, no masks, going to coffee shops, restaurants. And yes, their deaths were like 3 times what like Finland was, but even Finland had very low death rate too. So all of Scandinavia, from my understanding, is doing really well.
Yeah, and there's another thing also is that there were like people from like mostly non-European countries that would be coming into this happened in Estonia.
Yeah.
And I know like in Sweden this was very common. They were from other non-European countries that come over to Sweden and then they'd literally be on the verge of keeling over. And so
Really?
yeah. And then they may infect whether it was family or other people. There was all sorts of situations.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Scandinavia, they've got really good hospitals there. It's not an overcrowded country. It's very clean and
yeah, and
good
they have
medical care.
yeah, and also very strong immune systems,
Yeah,
which
true. Yeah.
also helps. It
Yeah.
And I think also, I mean, I obviously I'm not like into like the whole like supernatural or not what would you call it? I'm not really into like new age medicine, but I think
Yeah.
there's like a psychological component with these kind of issues. There's a famous guy from Netherlands. He goes by the Iceman.
Oh, yeah. I know all
He
about that guy. Yeah, he's something else. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he's
I think
famous.
there is kind of a psychological component with basically getting over like certain illnesses. If
Yeah.
you're psychologically, mentally, if you feel ill, you can more likely to get ill.
Yeah,
It
but
could be like
that guy's superhuman. Like he
mhm.
climbed Mount Everest in like barefoot and tennis shoes and no shirt, and like he's something else. That guy. But yeah, I
Yeah.
love. Yeah, did
You,
you know that he had a kind of a sad story. Um,
mhm,
he met his wife when she was young. They had 2 children.
mhm,
Madly in love with her. She was the love of his life, but she had issues like emotional issues. And
mhm.
one day she climbed on top of a 10-story building and jumped off and killed herself.
Oh,
And it just
okay.
destroyed him. And he was like in a really bad, dark place. And that's
Mhm.
when he started this whole Iceman thing. It's just like
Oh,
it was. He was talking about he was walking one day and there was some ice there in a lake, and he just decided to get in, and the coldness kind of took the pain away of
okay.
of losing his wife. But he's a fascinating character. Fascinating.
Wow, fascinating. That's yeah, I did not know that.
Mm.
And yeah. So, and I was going to also ask you is, okay, but you have daughters. I know that your wife's or
Yeah,
your ex-wife was from England,
yeah,
um, and your daughters are also in England.
yeah,
So, how? I mean, for them, have you spoken? Has because I know England, there's been a lot of like controversy right now.
yeah.
Estonia, there's many Estonians that have lived in England, or currently live in England.
Hmm.
Obviously, England was part of the European Union, so it's very easy for Estonians to go there. Is it is it like difficult for them right now on an individual level being in England?
Yes.
Okay.
My daughter graduates in June from Exeter University, and
Okay.
she's worked really, really hard, to graduate and get good grades and everything. And you think about it, your graduation's that big special day. Your family's there and a big
Mhm.
celebration. They canceled the graduation. It's going to be
Oh,
online, but she's
oh,
heartbroken. She's heartbroken over it. And she was living in a flat in London where it's like 4 or 5 girls renting a flat, and 2 of the girls got COVID, but
oh,
my daughter
wow.
did. My daughter Scarlett didn't get it. Um,
Okay.
but but so she's been fine. She has not. She's 22 years old. She has not been vaccinated yet because of her age.
Mhm.
But her mother and my oldest daughter, Summer, who's 28, she's been vaccinated. But my oldest daughter is autistic, And so we
Okay.
were real worried about her, but she's fine.
Yeah, and I saw also in I don't like in England, like they were actually going into people's like homes, apartments, or houses if they knew there were too many people, or
Oh,
what they
really?
defined. Yeah, and they would like actually pull people out of their homes or something.
Hmm.
Uh,
I
I
didn't
don't know
hear
if
that.
it's still happening. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was it mostly like non-family situations,
It's like
and
where my daughter was living. College kids. I mean, London's so expensive.
mhm,
So expensive for rent. I remember I actually toyed with moving there when my ex-wife and daughters moved there, like in it was I don't know 10 years ago or longer, and I started looking online for an apartment in London, and I found one. I said, "Oh, that looks nice." It's 200 pounds. That's not bad. It was 200 pounds like a week. No, it wasn't
wow,
per month.
okay,
So yeah,
wow,
London's expensive. That's what's so
absolutely.
great about here in the Philippines is like, gosh, it's so cheap for housing.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's what it seems like. And you've mentioned that there's people guys that that live on as low as like a few hundred to $600 a month
Yeah, like
or so.
there's guys living on 500 a month, but they're living in a what's called a nipa hut, a thatched roof and or tin roof and thatched sides, and maybe they've got electricity and running water, but no
Hmm.
inside toilet, none of that. I mean, it's very primitive. It's like two steps up from camping,
Hmm.
but I mean, it can be done. There's people that live their whole lives like that, but
Hmm.
I told them, like, if you had $1,000 a month and you don't go wasting your money, you can do really well here. You can have a nice lifetime here, a life's life, with 1,000 a month.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. I mean, like you also had mentioned too that you do the Camly teaching, which is definitely another way to supplement like income.
Oh
My
yeah.
brother actually my brother actually does teaching, and he's on, it's called VIP Kid,
Hmm.
and it yeah, on some of these platforms it's very good income. Or
Yeah,
well,
you can make like $20 an hour teaching Chinese kids English, but I'm not a teacher. I don't even have a college degree. I tell people that all the time. I'm uh,
mhm,
I'm what's called a tutor, and on
okay,
Cambly, there's no degree required. And what these people want is they just want to practice English with a native speaker. That's all they want. And so
okay.
they call me up. Like, I have a profile, just like on Facebook. They decide who they want to talk to, and if I'm online, I get a
Mhm,
call, just like you and I are talking now, and it
mhm,
comes up, and we just talk about whatever they want to talk about on their level. But I
mhm,
get doctors, scientists, lawyers, a lot of highly educated people around the world from Iraq, Brazil,
mhm,
Japan, China, all over. And I have fun doing it. I have like interesting conversations with people who in normal life I would never meet. Like
mhm,
I talked to an imam in Iraq who is like
mhm,
the leader of a mosque. And this
mhm.
guy looked like Saddam Hussein, like curly black hair, big bushy beard, sitting behind this huge, fancy black desk. And he was a professor of Arabic studies in Iraq, but he
Mhm,
had been there his whole life. And so he was telling me what it was like before Saddam Hussein took power, what it was like when he was in power, what it was like during the war, what it was like after the war, and just really fascinating things you never know. And not
mhm.
once did he try and convert me to Islam or talk about
Yeah.
religion. He was just telling me the history of his own country, and it was fascinating. He was the nicest man, just a really nice man.
Yeah, and I know, but I actually have a video about, well, it was more so Saddam's son Uday Hussein.
Yeah.
Uday was like the real that guy was like way worse than his dad.
Oh yeah,
Um
yeah. They were
and
evil.
yeah, so he but yeah, and it seems like with a lot of these platforms, what I will say is unfortunately, like in my brother's case, there's they've brought on so many teachers. I don't know if this is a situation with Camly
Mm-hmm.
that many teachers don't get like a kind of enough courses. Like when my brother started, for example, he could make as much as like say $5,000 a month
Wow.
on VIP Kid.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty doable, honestly, for most instructors in 2018, 2019. Unfortunately, in 2020, especially after COVID started taking a hit, it really the number of bookings that he could get went down quite a bit because there were just a lot more teachers being brought onto the platform, and it was becoming too saturated.
Yeah, with Cambly, you have like a rating, and the big thing is you have like a little mini video, like say 2 minutes long, introducing yourself to the potential student. And so for me, I noticed when COVID hit that my bookings went up. I don't even have bookings like you have what's called priority hours. So they say, I agree that I'll be online, say from 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And I just I just tick those boxes. I'll be here. And so I can be watching YouTube, reading a book, whatever I want to do. And a call comes in, and I just like you and I answer the call and start a conversation. But I was working as much as I wanted. And when my YouTube channel got hacked and taken away a couple of weeks ago, I said, well, I better see if I could still do Cambly because I hadn't done it in 6 months. Logged right on, and I worked all day, no problem. So it's great.
Yeah, and I'm very glad to hear your channel. You got your channel back because I didn't know if how that whole process works. Like, how does someone like destroy the channel and then like you get it back? I didn't think that could be like irreversible, or can it?
Well, what happened was like I fell for a phishing scam. They sent me. I get messages all the time wanting to advertise on my channel. I've never accepted any of them, but it was from Levi's. I said, "Well, Levi's, that'd be a great sponsor." And so they said we talked about prices and stuff via WhatsApp. I gave them a price. They agreed to it. They said, "Oh, here's your contract. And here's a sample video, 10-second video we want to put on your channel." So it all sounded legit. As soon as I clicked on that contract, that put spyware on my computer, and I didn't know it. I tried to open the video, wouldn't open. Contract wouldn't open. I said, "Oh, forget the whole thing." But what I didn't know, they immediately went in, took over my Google account, took over my YouTube channel, deleted all of my videos, and then they put their video on there, which is about cryptocurrency. It was called crypto. I forget what it was, crypto something, but it was like a fake. It was a fake investment in a fake cryptocurrency, and they just kept playing the video, which it was against YouTube's policies. So YouTube shut the video down, deleted it, sent me a message, said, "Sorry, Mark, we've had to delete your video because it's against our policy." I go, "What video? That's never happened before." And then I go on there, I can't get into my account, I can't get into Google, and I realized what had happened. Then one of my friends messaged, "Hey, Mark, what happened to your channel? It's gone." And that's when the nightmare began. Fortunately, I was able to get a hold of YouTube creators through Twitter, and they helped me. They sent me a form to fill out, and within 4 days they recovered the channel. So, but it was still a lot of damage was done. Like I still had all my subscribers and all my views, but like a video that was getting like 1,000 views a day dropped down to like 3 views a day, and it never has come back to where it was before. Never. Like so. All of my views, all my revenue, all that stuff is still way down. It's going back up, but it's been down. Like it's like it's a brand new channel, like a brand new channel, But at least everything's still there. So I just keep on working, keep putting out videos, and do the best I can. Anyway, Tyler, an hour has flown by. That's usually the maximum I go. I'd love to talk to you again and just have a general conversation about whatever you want to talk about, but we really kind of touched on a lot of things here tonight. You still there, Tyler?